Well, thank you so much for waking up really early and spending time with me talking about connecting. It's something that I'm very passionate about, and hopefully over the next 20 minutes or so, I'll give you some stories about how and why I connect, and why I think it's really important for a president or a CEO not only to connect, but to build community. There are some individuals that communicate to an audience. What I'm really trying to do is to build community within the university, but also beyond the boundaries of the campus. And I think that that is one of the most important responsibilities of a CEO or a president. So here I am with my beloved Bearcat, as you can see here. Unfortunately, there are too many of these around the city, at the airport and things like that. I had no idea that was part of my job description, but nevertheless, there it is. And I want to talk, as you can see, about building community via social media. You may have heard that I kind of like social media. And later on, I'll be hopefully tweeting a lot of photographs of you. Thank you for taking some photographs with me before the beginning of this. So you probably noticed that I was drinking Diet Coke. Some of you know that I wake up really early, around 4 o'clock or 4:30. I don't drink coffee. I like to drink Diet Coke. This is not a plug for Diet Coke. But that's where I get my caffeine. And recently, I've switched from Diet Coke, and this is not a plug for Mountain Dew either, but to Mountain Dew. and the reason for that is that there's a lot more caffeine, as you know, most students know, in Mountain Dew than in Diet Coke. And so that's how I actually, that's the secret, actually. People ask me, why do I wake up so early? How can I keep going? I drink about 5 or 6 of these cans during the course of a day. That's how I can be creative early in the morning, and I want to thank you for being creative with me this morning. So it's really great for me to talk a little bit about my community. It's one that I love tremendously, and that is the University of Cincinnati. And there are a few Bearcats here, right? So let me tell you a little bit about UC. For those of you who may not be from UC or familiar with it, it's a pretty large university. It is officially the second largest university in the state of Ohio, one of the largest universities in America. Currently, we have more than 43,000 students. We have really 16,000 employees, but 9,700 full-time employees. We are located on 7 sites around this metropolitan area, and we actually have a significant presence now in Chongqing, China, one of the largest cities in the world. And that's a recent initiative over the past year or so. The Uptown campus has 194 acres. That houses the Academic Health Center and the 12 of the 14 colleges of the University of Cincinnati. And we're really proud of our excellence. The excellence of the institution is really at the heart of our brand. And hopefully you'll see from my remarks in the slides that connecting and communicating is really essential in building the brand of the institution. And I feel a little bit uncomfortable talking about brand in the LPK Innovation Center. I am an amateur in this mecca, in this Taj Mahal of branding, but hopefully the comments from me will be of some interest to you, experts in the area of branding. So we have 34 programs in the top 50, 11 programs in the top 10, and I think there might be a few DAP graduates and students in the audience. That is one of the signature colleges at the University of Cincinnati that has several programs that are either number 1 or the top 5 in the nation and in the world. So there's a lot to be proud of with respect to the brand that is coming from the excellence of our programs. If you haven't been to the University of Cincinnati recently, you have to do so. Another part of the brand is that we have a stunning campus that has been trumpeted by a number of different publications as one of the most beautiful in the world, including Forbes and the New York Times and Travel and Leisure. This is the University of Cincinnati's Uptown campus. The Academic Health Center is over here. My office is over here, and you can sometimes see me running around up there, cheering all the students on down there as they walk from class to class. But it is really a fantastic and a beautiful physical plant that we're very, very proud of, and that's part of our brand. So some people have called me Social Santa. The Cincinnati Business Chronicle has called me the Chief Communicator, or CEO, and I think this will illustrate to you sort of the magnitude of the community that is Bearcat Nation or University of Cincinnati, and how effective, how quickly one can communicate with the community via social media in a way that wasn't possible before the advent of social media. You can see that currently there's about 22,000 followers on Twitter. My account is PresOno, and I'll talk to you a little bit about how we came up with that handle. There are about 8,800 on Facebook, about 3,600 on LinkedIn. So about 36,000 people are following messages that I send out there. And that's a pretty big number of people. I mean, it's not everybody that's connected to UC, but it is a really significant chunk of people that follow and care about the University of Cincinnati. So you can see just numerically that connecting through social media is really an efficient way to communicate with people who care about the University of Cincinnati or people that we want to get interested in the University of Cincinnati. Cincinnati is a great city for people who like to connect. There are people like Dhani Jones, who's a great football player for Michigan and for the Bengals. He is a great connector, and he's a friend of mine. We have yet to play tennis or golf. I'm afraid to do so, but we will do so in the near future. Lisa Braun from the Cincinnati Reds, and even this great restaurant, which is moving to Short Vine, Taste of Belgium. These are three entities and individuals that connect also through social media, and they really are an inspiration to me. So there are many examples in this great city of how you mobilize social media to communicate, connect, and to brand an institution or an activity. Now, why is it important? I think one of the oddities is that I'm one of the few presidents of a major research university or a CEO that is as interactive as I am on social media. A question that many people ask me is, why you? I mean, it could be a VP of communications, it could be somebody else. Why should the CEO be directly involved? And this slide should illustrate to you that there's an opportunity in a CEO being involved in social media, and there's also a risk. So if you actually look at this report from global PR, the global PR firm Weber Shandwick, they estimate through surveys that about half of a company's reputation can be attributed to the president or CEO. It's a lot of responsibility. You've got to be careful as a CEO or as a president, because the value and esteem of an institution is to some extent linked to you. And they estimate that 60% of a company's market value is attributed to its reputation. So if you do the math, about 30% of a company's market value can be attributed to its president or CEO. So you've got to be pretty careful if you're going to be out there and be visible and be the face of an institution. So there are opportunities if you're doing well, and there are risks associated if you're not doing well as the face or the voice of the institution via social media. Now, a great CEO in this city, who is the current chairman of Procter & Gamble, I think summarized it best. You can see here, and I'm going to read it verbatim because it's so good, a president or CEO's job, that individual has to wear many hats. You have to be a great communicator, you have to be a coach, you have to select your team, a great team, and to manage them. You have to solve major problems. Not the little ones that are inside the grassroots, but the real major problems that an institution is faced with. And he said, while others in your organization can also fill those roles, there's one critical job only the CEO or president can do, and that is to connect. And that's why we're all here today, to connect the outside world, society, economy, technology, and customers, we have customers at UC too. We have patients and we have prospective students. With the inside world, the organization, in my case, that's the University of Cincinnati. And it, I think, is even more true for a university president than for a company. Let me give you an idea of why it's important to connect and build community as a university president. If you think about it, this is me. I don't know, I'm a big red dot. But this is supposed to be me. And if you think internally, these are the key stakeholders that I have to connect with, and I need to catalyze connectivity between these different groups. So we have approaching 300,000 alumni. They're not in the university, but we consider them part of our community, part of our family. We have about 6,000 faculty. You saw that we have about 43,500 students. We have donors, that some of whom are alumni, some of whom are not, some of whom are heads of major foundations. We have patients that are served by our academic health center, and we have about 16,000 staff, about 9,700 of them that are full-time staff. So that is a very significant internal community, and building community and cohesion and a common vision, which is the definition of community, is a very important job of mine. If you're able to take that community and get them excited, enthused about the mission and vision of the institution, you can really move up that institution, whether it's a university or whether it is a company. So that's part of the job, to be a coach, a cheerleader for those within the University of Cincinnati. But there is the other community. Remember, A.G. Lafley said the number one role of the president or CEO is to connect the internal community to the external community. And so if you think about it, there are a lot of external entities that are incredibly important to the success and upward mobility of an institution if it's a university. So if you're president of a university, you need to interact with the city councilors, the mayors, and the county commissioners, because there's a lot of things that we have to move forward that are worth hundreds of millions, billions of dollars. And so you need to connect with local government, with state government, because a couple $100 million of funding comes from Columbus to the University of Cincinnati. That connectivity is important with the federal government, because you have to advocate for appropriate interest rates for student loans, and also for Pell funding, and for funding past the sequester for our $404 million of research spend. That connectivity is important. We have to connect with the governor, because the governor is an influential person that can involve the university in major initiatives such as the medical corridor and the biopharma initiative to attract companies to Ohio. We have to attract the best and brightest faculty and students to the institution, so I need to connect with them, with local businesses, so we can partner together to enhance the city and the region, with prospective patients that will be treated in our health system, and also the parents of prospective students, because parents have a lot of say in where the high school kids actually go to college. So the president of an institution can really connect also with external stakeholders, and it's incredibly important for the success of the university. So those are some of the jobs of a CEO, a president of a university. And I wanted to give you some examples of that kind of connectivity. Connectivity within the University of Cincinnati, and connectivity between myself and some of the external stakeholders. And this is just a sample of those sorts of tweets. All of these will be on Twitter, but I have a lot of other kinds of communications that are on Facebook and also on LinkedIn. So this is an example of a tweet. You can see the date here, August 29th, 2012. This was before I was appointed president of the University of Cincinnati. And so this is an interactive tweet. I think here you can see I was asking individuals, those followers that are out there, I said, would you prefer that my handle be Prezono with a Z or Prezono with an S? And so I got a lot of feedback. And this is actually a pretty famous guy, Dan Horde, who is actually the voice of the Bearcats. He actually tweeted back to me and he said, as did I would say about 90% of the respondents, that you should definitely use Z. So that's why the handle became Prez Ono with a Z instead of S. And he said, S makes it sound like a brand of microwave pizza. So the very handle that we used is based upon crowdsourcing and input from the community. Another funny tweet, example of connectivity, internally has to do with this student. This student was at the Linder College of Business. And you can see it's April 5th, 2013. I'd already become appointed president. She was hungry, and there were no Cheez-Its in the vending machine at the Linder College of Business. So the students here know that students are not at all shy about telling me about things that are wrong with the university. And so what I said is, I will ask. And magically, within about 2 hours, the machine was full of Cheez-Its. And she was very, very happy. And she went around telling all her friends, I love the hottest college in America because we replaced Cheez-Its very quickly. Here's another one. This is actually a moment. How many of you remember when Butch Jones, the decision week, where he was deciding, am I going to stay at UC? Am I going to go to Purdue? Am I going to go to, was it Colorado? And so during that week, he's a friend of mine. I really tried to work and try to keep him at UC. And Bearcat Nation was pretty depressed. You know, he had done a good job. A lot of us loved him. He was a family man. We thought he was going to stay for a long, long time. And then he decided to leave, just when I thought he was going to stay. You could feel a collective groan in Bearcat Nation. And so, you know, part of my job is also to be therapeutic, to interact with the community and say, it's going to be okay. And so this is an example of me communicating not only internally, but also externally, and saying, guys, it's going to be okay. So I said, Bearcat Nation, we are bigger than any one person, and I will make sure that we continue to compete at the highest level. I have your back. And the thing that you can see is, you could say, well, maybe it's not that impressive. There are only 371 retweets and favorites, but look at this guy. ESPN was one of the entities that retweeted it. And if you think about how many people follow ESPN, you actually look at the impact of this tweet, it's reaching many, many more people. So that's an example of me connecting with the community and saying, I feel your pain, we're going to be okay. And you cannot believe how many people have come up to me around the world saying that tweet is something that actually had a positive impact in a painful period of time. So that's one way of connecting with Bearcat Nation. And this one is really, really cute. I love this. There was a student who had left the University of Cincinnati. Her name is Callie Newman, and she decided after transferring away from UC and experiencing what that institution is like, and it'll remain nameless, that life is all about learning from your mistakes. Prez Ono, please help me become a Bearcat again. And so I said, please email me at president@uc.edu because I wanted to learn more about her situation. She did. This is funny. This is some other person, I don't know who it is, says, I believe in Santa. But the amazing story is that there have been at least a dozen students that have contacted me from other colleges and universities, some of them who transferred, contacted me directly saying, I want to come back. I then connect them with the admissions office, and they've come back. And that's a beautiful story. And not that money matters, but if you count it, if hundreds of students transfer to the University of Cincinnati, either come back or decide just to transfer from another institution, it's a lot of money that's involved. So this communication actually has a benefit in building community, but also has a positive impact on brand, okay, as you see as a destination. So I think it's pretty cute. Now, a lot of you have asked me, wherever I go, this hashtag hottest college in America, how did it happen? And the reason why people ask me is because, like I said, I'm an amateur, but it has become a little bit of the brand of the University of Cincinnati. We didn't pay a penny for it. It was a total accident, and people want to know, how did this happen? So let me tell you the story. The fact of the matter is that unbeknownst to me, I didn't know that there was a college student in Arizona who used hashtag hottest college in America before I did. So let me show you that tweet. Actually, I don't see that. I guess it was deleted. There was a student in Arizona who used the word hashtag hottest college in America on Twitter before I did, but the meaning of it was a little bit different. It was a tweet that said, "It's hot outside, but the girls are hotter." And so that was the real start of Hottest College in America. I didn't even know it existed. And so this is the first time I used Hottest College in America. And there's a lesson in this, in that you can see that it didn't catch on right away. Whether it's a hashtag or a brand, you don't have to give up just because it doesn't catch on right away. So already at this time, there were quite a few followers. And I think at this time I was tweeting, and the tweets were going on Facebook, and they were going on LinkedIn. So there were a lot of people, the reaction was cold or lukewarm at best. You can see that only one person retweeted it, and only 3 people favorited it in that large pool of people that saw hashtag Hottest College in America. So maybe it's because, I think Ben says it's because my video was bad. It was a twit video, and it was actually in March. And there were all kinds of prospective students and their parents swarming around the campus. And it was a beautiful day, and I took a little video of the University of Cincinnati campus, and I said, UC is swarming with prospective students. Interest in UC is through the roof. Hashtag hottest college in America. That's how it started. That was the first tweet. And then let me tell you what's happened after that. A little bit after that, in July of 2012, students started to get interested. People outside the university started to get interested. I was persistent. I kept using the brand, the hashtag. And so somebody from the outside says, UC should start selling shirts with hashtag hottest college in America on it, but the C is a C from the CPAW, which is what you see on athletic uniforms and things like that. It was a suggestion from the outside, not from the inside, that we start using hottest college in America. So you can see that interest in it as a brand, as a hashtag on social media, was growing. And so we thought it was a pretty cool idea. There's something called Buckeye Nation, with the UC being UC from the University of Cincinnati. So we said, well, maybe we'll have a new kind of design for a shirt. And so this design was created. You can see the CPAW is now incorporated into this T-shirt called hashtag the hottest college in America. And I started throwing the T-shirts out into the crowd at Nippert Stadium and Fifth Third Stadium. And so this T-shirt was created, and people started to crave that T-shirt and that hashtag even more. The story is that it's not always easy to move forward with branding, not only to get it to catch on, but actually even to get internal approval for the brand, even though I'm the president. And so we were told by the branding committee, you cannot do that. So we were given a limited license to design these shirts. How many shirts were we able to make? 400. 400 T-shirts go pretty fast when you're throwing them out all over the Nippert Stadium. And so we were just not able to make more than that, and we very rapidly ran out of T-shirts with the hashtag hottest college in America, and unfortunately that's why it is a limited edition T-shirt. But there's nothing like success. The licensing and marketing groups started to follow how many people were using hashtag hottest college in America in Twitter and on Facebook. And it went far beyond myself, and you'll see that very soon. It became viral. And for branding people, that's what you want to have. You want something to be viral and become associated and to augment your brand. All said from an amateur branding person. So we have a second generation T-shirt here. You can see that the CPAW is not actually incorporated into the word college. And you can see this little small thing called trademark. We have trademarked hashtag hottest college in America. And I hope you'll agree that's a wise move, because it really has contributed to the brand of the University of Cincinnati. I go to high schools and junior high schools. I walk in and they say, Pres Ono, hashtag the hottest college in America. I was at a meeting of 17 state senators the other day, and they yelled out to me, hottest college in America, baby. So you can see that it actually has become part of the brand of the university, and it makes people feel good. If you really think about it, who am I to say it's the hottest college in America? There are 4,000 colleges and universities. But I actually believe that it's true. And I think more and more people really believe it's true. You probably know that we were ranked as the #1 university for return on investment, that we were ranked #3 in the country in top up-and-coming universities in U.S. News and World Report. And we will be named the Public University of the Year in Washington, D.C. next month. So we really are the hottest college in America. I'm just going to end with a couple of examples, and then we can do Q&A of how I've incorporated hottest college in America in different kinds of tweets. This was a great one, and you can see that when we named Tommy Tuberville as head football coach of the University of Cincinnati, less than a day after Butch Jones said he was leaving, you could feel it in the city. People really felt uplifted. And so this was one occasion when I said, get ready to play at an even higher level, Bearcat Nation. We are the University of Cincinnati. World take note. And so actually a number of people are starting to use hottest college in America, world take note. You see, when you enhance the brand, the world takes note. So, and you can see once again, ESPN, my buddy here, retweeted it. I wish they'd give me more money, but I didn't say that. And this is most recently, you can see that people are starting to believe it. I said just very recently, August 30th, what other university is named #1 for ROI in the USA and Public University of the Year in the same week, hottest college in America? And you can see that here are friends and alumni. Here's a guy called Keith Knapp. He's got a cloud score of 62. He says, I love the work you're doing to build credibility for Cincinnati. I'm an NKU alum. I got it wrong. He's an NKU alum. But I love the influence. And so you can see, even those that aren't alums, they can be from NKU or OSU. If you really build community and build belief in the institution, it even transcends those that are part of the community. And to end with, I've, with the encouragement of city councilors, have actually morphed hottest college in America. And this is something that I used. Sometimes I say hottest city in America, referring to the universities, to Cincinnati, not to the university. They like that. And P.G. Sittenfeld also uses hottest city in America. This was after this thing called the Crosstown Classic. I don't know if there's any Xavier fans here. You can see, you can gauge how excited people are by the number of retweets and favorites. 474 retweets, 98 favorites. ESPN was not impressed, as you can see. But after we beat Xavier in the Crosstown Classic, I said we were the hottest college in the city. And you can see people got pretty excited about that. So you can morph the brand a little bit, and other people will do that as well. And most recently, I consider this the biggest coup. I met Gordon Gee in Columbus, actually just last week. We had dinner, and I said, Gordon, would you mind posing for a picture with me with the hottest college in America? And he said, sure. And so you can actually even get OSU to believe that the University of Cincinnati is the hottest college in America. So I'm going to wrap up now, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. You know, I actually do believe, to come back to the beginning, that my most important job really is connecting. My most important job is to get people outside the university excited about the university, and get people inside the university excited about the university as well. And so this is the summary of that story. Remember I showed you that early on people were not impressed with the hashtag hottest college in America. But you can see, and this is unique users, that within just a little bit more than a year, we've gone to nobody using hashtag college in America other than a college student in Arizona and me, to about 35,000 unique individuals that are using that in their tweets and in their Facebook posts. So I think that's pretty viral, if you agree with me. So to end up, I'm going to go back to what I was saying. I think it's really important when you're connecting, not just to broadcast. I think part of the reason people get excited and take ownership of the connectivity is because I listen and I respond about Cheez-Its, about all kinds of things, about One Stop. Let's not talk about One Stop. All kinds of things. And so that's the difference. That's what helps make a community, because if people think that I'm listening and I'll respond and I'll modify my behavior or my decisions based upon input from all the individuals that are communicating with me, that's building community. That's the difference. And so if you actually look at Chris Brogan's book, Trust Agents, I think this sentence is hopefully true. There's an amazing difference between building an audience and building a community. An audience will watch you fall on the sword, and I hope this is true. A community will fall on the sword for you. And you can actually see that. When you actually go around the country and talk to alumni, when you talk to faculty and students, when you actually go around Nippert Stadium or Fifth Third Stadium, there is a palpable feeling of community at the University of Cincinnati. A lot of pride, and I think that it's really important moving forward that when I communicate internally, that I stay focused on the university and on the work of the faculty and students, and really remain focused on connecting people for the university. And so with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much. Do you have any questions? I'll answer any question you might have. Go ahead. Much fewer than my friend up north. He has about 3,000. I would say I probably only have 30, something like that. So, but you know, it's funny. People are starting to give me bow ties. I'm not begging for bow ties here. But I think that just naturally, as time progresses, that number of 30 or so will grow. It'll never be 3,000. So, thanks for your question. Other questions? Go ahead.
Do you read every tweet, or do you have somebody moderate them for you?
You know, so a lot of people ask me that question. They say, how do you have time with all the things that you have to do? You know, speaking to different audiences and, you know, going up to Columbus, talking to the governor about things, going to Washington, D.C., all those sorts of things. How do I have time to tweet? And you can see that I've tweeted something like 20,000 times. It sounds like a big number. It's about 17 times a day. And so if you actually look at over a course of a day when I tweet, you'll be happy to know that I'm usually not tweeting very much during the business day. But I tweet, I get up very early drinking Mountain Dew. I start tweeting as early as 4 a.m. And you'll see that I'll tweet sometimes when I'm at the airport or I'm at lunch. I take pictures of things that are happening or talk about great things that are happening at the institution. So I'll tweet about that when I have a moment between meetings. And after I put my girls to bed, I sometimes will tweet after 10 o'clock. The good thing is that the students are just starting to wake up at 10 o'clock at night. So that's how I do it. And I read pretty much, to answer your question, there are some tweets that I miss, but for those of you who actually tweet to me, you'll probably notice that I do read most of the tweets. I try to respond to all of them. I'll miss a couple. But I do have someone that helps me on occasion. When I'm on the road for a long period of time out of the country, I do want to make sure that if something serious comes up, like Cheez-Its are not in the vending machines anymore, that somebody's monitoring that. To be frank, there have been some serious situations that have come to my attention through social media. For example, students studying abroad in Egypt being trapped in their apartment during unrest in Egypt that have actually communicated with me from a phone through social media, and we mobilize people to try to get that student out. I don't think that's me. Sorry about that, guys. So does that answer your question? Okay. Oh, great question. So it's really everything I do that's positive is coming from students. I mean, to be honest, when I was at Emory University, I didn't even have a cell phone. I didn't know how to text. The president of the student government at Emory said, what's your cell phone number? And I gave it to him. I thought he was going to give me a call. I was sitting at a board meeting and my phone buzzes. It's because he sent me a text. And so that was when I started communicating via the cell phone, smartphone. And then when I didn't have a Facebook page until just before I came to University of Cincinnati, and the students got really excited because they could communicate with me through Facebook. And it was really University of Cincinnati where a number of individuals said, you need to tweet. And a student and a member of staff in the provost's office, Ben Hofstetter, who's actually back there, they actually sent me up on my phone and set up the Twitter account. So, but what really drove it was that I realized that students at the university and prospective students and young alumni, increasingly they communicate via social media. And I need to connect. And if that's where they are, and that's how I can communicate with them, and that's how I can hear what they're excited about, what they're worried about, I need to be on that medium. So that's how it happened. Other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Let's throw another one out there with your list of organizations that you belong to, under your profile. How do you manage your time at UC and then all those other organizations devoting, some sort of time to those to help them?
It is a challenge. I will say that, part of the reason that I wake up at 4 a.m. and stay up until around midnight is because I have a lot of responsibilities. Running a university, which is really a multi-billion-dollar organization with tens of thousands of individuals, is a big responsibility. I also believe that as president and CEO of University of Cincinnati, that I have a responsibility for the city and the state and the region. And so I think it's part of my responsibility to be involved in those sorts of organizations because we are one of the largest employers here. We are an economic engine for the state. And so even though I'm busy, it's something that I think I really need to do, I'm glad to do, to contribute outside of the university. To be frank, there are positive aspects of being connected via those organizations where I actually meet with people face to face as opposed to social media. Being a member of the Cincinnati Business Committee, I get to have conversations on a regular basis with CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. That, in many cases, is mutually beneficial for UC and those companies. There are other organizations that I care about, such as the Dragonfly Foundation that raises money for kids with cancer, the Juvenile Diabetes Foundation that funded my research when I was a graduate student. I feel like I need to give back. They were instrumental. Organizations such as that were instrumental in my development into a biomedical scientist, and now I have the ability to give back to them. And so it is a little bit of a challenge. I'm really fortunate that I have a great staff that manage my time, and I do have to say no. I was asked to take on a major responsibility for the city just past couple of days ago, and I really wrestled with whether to say yes or no because I love the city and the cause was a very important one for this city. But I said no because I have enough to do, and I need to weigh my bandwidth, and my assessment was that as much as I wanted to help, that my focus is on the University of Cincinnati and those organizations that I'm already affiliated with, like the Cincinnati Symphony, that I need to be focused on major initiatives such as building the Cancer Center, such as making sure that upcoming levies that are directly relevant to the viability of the university, that I advocate for those. So to answer your question, it is a challenge, but I need to really weigh where I'm involved and how I'm involved, but it is a responsibility to give back to the community. Thanks. Yeah, go ahead.
Since you live on 4 hours of sleep a day, and
Thanks to Mountain Dew.
do you worry about crashing?
I feel pretty good. I'm pretty energetic. I mean, maybe it's 5 cans of Mountain Dew. Maybe that's what it is. But I do not feel tired. I rarely feel tired. I think there's just some people that don't need as much sleep as others. I think I'm fortunate that I'm one of those people that, I will sometimes take a really long nap on the weekend, and at airports I'm often found sleeping. So your body will tell you if you're tired, and I listen to my body. If I need to sleep in on a Saturday, I will sleep in on a Saturday. So I really appreciate your concern. Don't be worried. I'm feeling pretty good. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
You mentioned that you work with the CEOs on the Cincinnati
Great question. It really depends. The CEO of Chiquita is somebody who's really into it, and he is in the same groove I am. Um, there are a number of examples of CEOs that are on social media. I'm certainly not the only example. There are other university presidents that are getting increasingly involved in social media. Renu Khator at the University of Houston is one that's heavily involved. I really think, there's an article written that was through AP that was published last week that really sort of drilled down on the question of is this going to, am I an anomaly, or is this going to be something that's going to increasingly be the case with CEOs and university presidents? And Molly Corbett, the president of the American Council of Education, said that I'm on the younger side of university presidents, and I grew up with it. I'm comfortable with it. You probably know that if you look at the demographics of university presidents, that there is already right now happening quite a change in leadership across American higher education. A lot of the presidents are in the late 60s, mid 70s, even early 80s. And so they will retire at some point, and then people like me will become presidents. And so I think that if you look at the provosts and other institutions that will be future presidents, they're much more involved in social media than current sitting presidents. So if you will, you might view me as sort of the earliest part of a wave. I think that many more future presidents will connect because hopefully you have been convinced from my talk that connecting is the most important job of a president, whether it's of a company or of a university. And if that's how the nation is connecting, you need to be on social media. So I really believe that we do talk about it. Some people have started tweeting because of our conversations, and I believe it's just going to continue. It's here to stay. Go ahead.
You mentioned how there were concerns of how the hashtag would change the brand of UC. How do you think this focus on social media has altered and will alter the brand of UC Cincinnati?
I got to tell you, I go all over the place to different cities around the country and around the globe, and I talk to a lot of alumni, and they are really pleased. I would say 99.8% of people, when I run into them, say, or emails that I get thousands of emails, are very positive about this feeling of optimism and enthusiasm that I think it's contributing to. So I think people are happy. I think some people believe that it has had a positive impact on the university's brand and image, and I hope that's the case. But all indications are that that's the way people view it. Go ahead.
What would you say is UC's kind of top focus right now? As in the near future, do you see us working more on kind of our inner strength and our community? Do you want to see reaching out in the local community in Cincinnati, or becoming more of a global presence and really expanding our reach for innovation? What do you think is our specific focus?
It's hard to define one focus. It's easier to define maybe 3 or 4. And I think you pretty much put your finger on some of the most important aspirations of the institution. It is very gratifying that we have been recognized. That number 3 ranking in U.S. News report among top national universities is the most up and coming. That's from a survey of other presidents. There's no greater esteem for a president for your peers to say, we noticed that something's going on at your institution. They're pretty discriminating, they're pretty critical. And so it means a lot to me that they have recognized what's happening at the University of Cincinnati. They're the toughest critics. And so to answer your question, we are going through a process between now and early next year where we're going to build on our strategic plans called UC 2019. 2019 is our bicentennial. And UC 2019 identified 8 broad areas, not 1. And we followed that up with the academic master plan, where we started to invest $10 million a year, about $100 million between now and the bicentennial, to enhance the institution. What's happening between now and early next year is we're really putting a very sharp focus on that. We started that by assessing our strengths, investing in programs that were excellent or poised to be excellent, and actually divesting in programs that we really didn't think had a chance to become excellent. So you got to make tough decisions. And to really make that happen, you have to make even more precision in the action steps that you take. And that's what's going to happen, to answer your question. This process called creating our third century, because once we hit the bicentennial, we'll be moving into our third century. What that process, which is really driven by the community, but also the executive committee, what we're doing is we're taking a look at documents that were created last year. Last year, for me, was a crazy year. You know, I was thrust into the presidency. There were 16 positions that were interim or vacant. And so the first thing I had to do was to fly the plane, because all you students want to have a university that still works, right? So we flew the plane, we built a team pretty much. We still have a couple more appointments to make. But now is the time with the leadership team in place where we really make those decisions about what areas of scholarship and endeavor we will excel in. And there will be a finite number. There'll be winners and there'll be losers because we don't have infinite money. And that's the job of a CEO. Connecting is one, but making these decisions and creating a vision for what the university will be in the future is really my biggest responsibility. So between now and early next year, in this process called creating our third century, we will define a finite number of areas where when faculty members retire, we will hire in a strategic way to build strength. Centers of excellence, areas where we will be second to none. And the only way you do that is defining those areas and having the conviction to hire in those areas and to raise money in the next capital campaign. There will be a next capital campaign. We have to figure out how much we need to raise, and that is really the core mission of a CEO or president of a university. So to answer your question, certainly experiential learning is at the core of the identity of UC. It will never leave the identity of UC, but it will morph. You see, cooperative education in the past was an architecture student going to an architecture firm. What will happen at UC in the future, there'll be much more interdisciplinary aspect to whatever the experience is, whether it's in health. We want to have more and more medical students together with nursing students and pharmacy students learning how to work with a team while they're in school, so when they get into the hospital, they know how to work as a team. And that's something we don't do very well now, and that's something that the Affordable Care Act is going to demand moving forward. We want to be at the front end of that interdisciplinary educational experience. When it comes to product design, we don't think that you just have a group of design students working with companies that are interested in design. We think the best way to innovate is to have a diverse team. And so, as you know, through a platform called UC Forward, we've taken design students, engineering students, business students, arts and sciences students, put them together with somebody that provides a real world problem. It can be a widget. It can be how do you deliver electricity to sub-Saharan Africa? How do you feed people in inner city Cincinnati? Give us a real problem where students that have a fundamental knowledge in their discipline work together as a team, as they will when they're out in the real world. That will be a core identity. The other core identity, because half of our budget is health, will be to define 4 or 5 areas where we'll become preeminent. Neuroscience will be one. Sustainability and water will be one. So forth and so on. So I don't want to list them all because we're still working through the process, but that's the kind of specificity that we'll come to as an institution over the next several months. Go ahead. Got to stop?
Wrap it up if we can. One more question?
One more question?
Okay.
Go ahead.
You talk a lot about students, and I think that's awesome. In order to build that connection with students, you have to feel it inside you as well. Aside from bringing home,
Yeah.
how do you keep that spirit, student spirit, in so many leaderships?
It's really easy. You know, students are wonderful people. It's fun to interact with students. You know, I think that, as I said in response to the previous question, what really motivated me to communicate through this social media space, it's because that's how the students respond. I really do believe the institution has to be student-centered. So the question is, what motivates me to interact?
How do you keep that student spirit with so many? You're always the one leading. The students are the ones that usually learn from those leaders. So how
you just have to make time and for them in your lives. You know, I learn from them. I get excited about the university through them. It's the same with the faculty. It's not just the students. But let's face it, you know, if you're a company, a lot of companies love having our co-ops and our interns because they bring a fresh perspective, a different way of thinking into the organization. There are lots of students here at LPK from UC, and when you talk to the people at LPK, they want students because they bring a new perspective. They have the courage to move in directions that may be totally new. And so for me, it's easy. I keep that because I interact with them and they give me energy. Thank you very much.